Welcome to Flavour Hacking, the new way to consider cooking, using simple tricks, techniques, tips, and a little appliance of science to take regular ingredients to restaurant-level deliciousness. Our food tester always focuses on one of four things: caramelization, the Maillard effect, umami, and enhancers. Today, we're hacking beef, a tasty protein punch of flavour and nourishment. Beef can be broken down into three parts: muscle, which is made up from long cells and is lean and rich in protein; fat, which grants meat its tenderness and flavour; and tendons, a connective tissue that melts during cooking, releasing collagen. Picking your beef. A cow is made up of primal cuts, which are then broken down into subprimal cuts, which include specific steaks, chops, and preparations. It takes a lifetime of work to master them all, so your best friend in these decisions is always the butcher. Hacking the reverse seared steak. The perfect cut to hack a steak is a ribeye for us. We like to keep it on the bone and aged around 28 days for extra flavour. Great steak is all about obtaining a juicy red centre and deep, thick brown crust on the outside. The reverse sear method helps us hack heat distribution and make a more tender bite. The first important hack is to let your meat get to room temperature before cooking. Dry it with paper to absorb any excess moisture and season with salt only. Pepper will burn, so we add it at the end. Our seasoned steak then goes in the oven at 100 degrees Celsius. After 15 minutes, we start to use our trusty thermometer every 5 minutes. For medium rare, we are aiming for an internal temperature of around 45 degrees Celsius. At this point, we want to remove it from the oven. A cast iron skillet is a great hack for adding a delicious brown crust. At this point, we want to turn the heat to the max. We use vegetable oil, which has a higher smoke point, and we sear the steak on each side for around 3 minutes. You should start to see the amino acids in the steak browning before your very eyes. Now, add a large knob of butter and add some whole garlic. We want to baste the meat in these melted fats, tipping the pan to the side and using the butter over the top of the steak. It should bubble white. For medium rare, we're aiming for a finished internal temp of around 49 to 52 degrees Celsius. At this point, we want to remove the steak and let it rest for around 5 minutes. It will continue to cook, but as it cools, the proteins inside the meat will relax and reabsorb some of the meat's tasty juices. Do not forget to season one last time with salt and pepper. All of these flavours pair well with beef, but some of our favourites are anchovy and caper butter is a beautifully complex topping. A good butcher should also have a selection of flavoured salts which are perfect for finishing steaks. Try saffron or rosemary. Chimichurri is a perfect citric offset that provides wonderful top notes to steak's deep deliciousness. And a few flakes of katsuobushi will add a real intense umami boost to what is already a very deep dish. For our second recipe of research, we want to hack the ultimate umami beef stew. Let's start from the meat. For this, we want to use beef cheeks, an underrated but deliciously dense cut, which we want to clean first by removing any silver membrane. We now marinate the cheeks overnight in a bath of dry stout, peppercorns, bay leaves, rosemary, and a tiny bit of salt. Brown the cheeks aggressively on all sides in vegetable oil. You'll need to use tongs here. Remove the meat and salt it slightly on the surface. Using a Dutch oven, we now sweat 2 large onions until they start to brown. We add a fine grated carrot and celery to the onions. When they start to dry, we want to add a tablespoon of tomato paste, but reduce the heat because it can sometimes burn. We also now add some rosemary, thyme, and some black pepper. We strain in the marinated liquids, reduce by half, and then turn down the heat and add the browned cheeks. Pour in the stock. For us, it's a mix of chicken and porcini, and we want to make sure that the meat is 3/4 covered in liquid. We now place this in the oven with the lid on, and we turn the meat every hour, using a small amount of liquid to remove the brown bits that have stuck to the top of the pan. Add stock if needed to keep the meat 3/4 submerged. Once the cheeks are soft and tender, remove them and set them aside. We want to take the lid off, increase the heat to around 200 degrees Celsius and start to reduce our sauce by around 50%. Taste, and now we season with salt, pepper and a few drops of Worcestershire sauce. We then ladle some sauce into a pan and reduce it one more time, adding some butter and glazing the meat in this deep, sticky sauce. We can enhance the beef cheeks with many ingredients, but some of our favourites include a small squeeze of lemon at the end for a lovely acidic lift. Creamy mashed potatoes is a wonderful classic pairing, and we have an episode on that coming up soon. Pickled cabbage can provide a wonderful sweet, sour, hot, cold sensation. And if you really want to add some extra Maillard and a little bit of texture, try some toasted bread to dip in the sauce. Beef jam. We wanted to push our leftover stew even further and try to make a beef cheek jam. We started by cooking some shallots, garlic and bay leaves in butter until translucent over a medium heat. We mix in a little bit of red wine vinegar and brown sugar and let it caramelise. Then we add our lovely beef liquids and small pieces of beef cheek and cook at a very low heat into the sauce. If it gets too dry, add more liquid from the stew until the meat starts to melt. Once the jam is ready, take it off the fire, add a spoon of bitter orange marmalade, Dijon mustard and taste for salt and pepper. We want to serve this cold on some warm toasted sourdough bread. Join us next time when we'll be hacking more wonderful, everyday used common ingredients.